Never go to the farm, Catherine. Promise me. Those were my husband Joshua's words. He spoke them with a rare intensity, unlike anything I had ever heard from him in our 24 years of marriage. I promised. For years I kept that promise, even though curiosity whispered in the back of my mind. What farm? Why was it forbidden? What happened there that made my usually gentle husband so firm? Now Joshua was gone. A sudden heart attack had taken him from me at only 54. I was 52, a widow with a bitter, grieving daughter and a heart full of unanswered questions. Grief makes time feel heavy and strange. Some days I barely moved. Other days I felt frantic, searching for anything that still connected me to him. 2 weeks after the funeral, I sat in the polished wood office of Mr. Winters, Joshua's attorney. Legal paperwork felt cold compared to the man I'd lost. "Mrs. Mitchell," Mr. Winters said softly, pulling me back to the present. "There's one more item." He slid a small antique box across the desk toward me. Inside was a brass key with a maple leaf keychain and a sealed envelope in Joshua's familiar handwriting. "What is this?" I asked, turning the heavy key in my palm. Mr. Winters adjusted his glasses. "Your husband purchased property in Alberta, Canada 3 years ago. According to his instructions, you were to be told only after his passing. The deed is now in your name. Taxes are paid for 5 years. A property in Canada?" I said, stunned. Joshua had never owned anything but our Minnesota home. "It's called Maple Creek Farm," the lawyer continued. "Apparently his childhood home. He repurchased it after it changed hands several times." My chest tightened. The farm. The one he told me never to visit. Why would he buy back the very place he feared? Mr. Winters lowered his voice. "You should also know the property has become valuable. Energy companies have asked about it recently. Oil was discovered in that region about 18 months ago. Your husband declined several offers." Oil? Money? Joshua had never mentioned any of this. We lived modestly on his engineer's salary and my teacher's income. How had he done this? Why the secrecy? I opened the letter with shaking hands. "My dearest Catherine, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. I'm sorry. There's so much I should have told you, but couldn't bring myself to say. The farm is yours now. For 3 years, I worked to turn it from the broken place of my childhood into something beautiful for you. I know I once made you promise never to go there. I'm releasing you from that promise. In fact, I'm asking you to visit just once before you decide what to do. On the main house desk is a laptop. Password is the day we met plus your maiden name. Everything you need will be there. I love you, Kat. More than you know." Joshua, tears blurred my eyes. Even in death, Joshua was full of secrets and love. "I need to see this place," I whispered. Mr. Winters nodded. "One more thing. Joshua's brothers are contesting the will. They claim he wasn't mentally competent when he repurchased the property." I almost laughed through my grief. Joshua was the most rational man I knew. "Nevertheless," the lawyer said gently, "they filed objections." Determination rose in me. I'm going to Canada. Today. 48 hours later, I drove a rented SUV through golden autumn hills of Alberta until towering wooden gates marked Maple Creek Farm came into view. The property was huge. Rolling meadows, maple trees blazing red and gold, and a restored 2-story farmhouse gleaming white in the distance. This wasn't an old ruin. It was an estate. I turned the brass key in the gate's lock and drove up the gravel road, heart pounding. What had Joshua built here? Why the secrecy? The house was beautiful, with a wide porch and huge windows. My hands shook as I opened the front door. And then I froze. Horses. Not living ones, but paintings, sculptures, photographs. Everywhere. Elegant horses galloping across fields, carved in wood, painted in oils, captured in perfect black and white photographs. My lifelong passion, the love Joshua always encouraged but never really understood, filled the entire entry and great room. On a desk by a huge window sat a silver laptop with a single red rose on top. Before I could reach it, I heard tires crunch on the driveway. A black SUV stopped behind my rental car. Three tall men got out, strong jaws, dark hair, faces strikingly similar to Joshua's but colder. The Mitchell brothers. They hadn't come to welcome me. I quickly closed the door and locked it. Through a side window, I watched them gather on the porch. The oldest, silver hair, Joshua's eyes but harder, knocked sharply. "Mrs. Mitchell, we know you're in there. We should talk." I stayed silent, heart racing. Joshua had warned me about his family, but never with detail. Instinct said, "Be careful." The knocking grew louder. "Catherine, I'm Robert Mitchell, Joshua's older brother. This is Alan and David. We're here about the farm." Of course they were. I glanced at the laptop. Answers might be inside, not on the porch. Ignoring the pounding door, I turned on the computer and typed the password, our meeting date plus my maiden name. The screen lit up, opening to a folder for Catherine. Inside, hundreds of videos dated from the day after Joshua's funeral forward for a whole year. I clicked the first. Joshua's face filled the screen. Healthy, smiling, younger. "Hello, Kat. If you're watching this, I'm gone and you came to the farm. I knew you couldn't resist once Winters told you. I've made a video for every day of your first year without me. 1 year of company. 1 year of explaining what I should have told you in life." His smile faded, eyes gentle. First, why I bought back the farm I swore I'd never return to him. Outside, the brothers paced, making calls, frustrated they couldn't get in. Joshua's voice steadied me. 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with a heart condition. 2 to 5 years to live. "I didn't tell you or Jenna. I wanted our last years to feel normal, not shadowed by death, anger, and love warred inside me. He had hidden his illness to protect us. When I knew time was short, I decided to create something meaningful for you. You always dreamed of land and horses. I rebuilt the farm for you. My brothers don't know this. I legally bought it from our father when he was broke. He swore me to secrecy. They believe they'll inherit, but they won't. They'll try to take it now. Don't let them." As if on cue, one brother pressed a document against the window, some legal order, while talking on the phone. "In the desk bottom drawer," Joshua said, "you'll find a blue folder with every document you'll need. The farm is fully yours." I made sure. Tears streamed down my face. Even dying, he protected me. Suddenly, red and blue lights flared outside a police cruiser. The brothers smiled smugly as it pulled up. Joshua's video ended with a final note. "The stables hold 6 horses, all the breeds you love. Staff will care for them. My last gift to you. Be brave, Kat." The knocking came again, firmer now. RCMP. "Mrs. Mitchell, please open the door." I wiped my tears, grabbed the blue folder, and went to face them. When I opened the door, a young Royal Canadian mounted police officer stood flanked by the 3 Mitchell brothers. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Constable Wilson. These men have a court order to inspect the property for an estate dispute." I forced calm into my voice, just as Joshua would want. "Constable, before you do anything, please look at these." I handed him the blue folder. The brothers scowled. Robert waved dismissively. "Family property disputes are messy. My sister-in-law is emotional and confused." "Actually," I interrupted, "I'm neither emotional nor confused. I'm a widow standing on property my husband legally owned." "I ask you to review those documents." The constable scanned the folder, deed transfers, notarized statements, bank records. His expression changed. "Gentlemen, these appear valid. I see no grounds to force inspection today. This is a civil matter." Robert's face flushed with anger. "This is outrageous." "That woman has no right. That woman," I said calmly, "is Joshua Mitchell's wife. And I have every right to be here." They glared but retreated to their SUV, rage in their eyes. I stood shaking but victorious. Joshua had been right. He would come fast and hard. And he had armed me well. But as their car disappeared down the driveway, a chill settled over me. They tried to break me with legal threats, but Joshua had left more than love behind. He had left a secret plan hidden deep inside Maple Creek Farm, and I was about to find it. That night I barely slept. My mind replayed the scene of Robert and his brothers driving away, their faces tight with anger. I knew they would be back. Joshua had warned me they'll try everything once I'm gone. The question was what else he had left for me to discover, and whether it would be enough. At dawn, I made strong coffee, wrapped myself in a blanket, and walked through the house he had built in secret. Every room spoke of him. The library was filled with first editions of my favorite novels. The sunroom looked over the eastern pastures, perfect for morning tea. His touch was everywhere. But I still felt the weight of danger. I decided to check the stables, needing fresh air and maybe comfort from the animals Joshua had gifted me. The crisp Alberta morning stung my cheeks as I crossed the yard. Inside the stables, 6 magnificent horses waited. A black Frisian named Midnight snorted softly as I approached. "Good morning, ma'am," a voice startled me. A tall, weathered man in his early 60s stepped out of the tack room, wiping his hands. "I'm Ellis," he said, offering a firm handshake. "Your husband hired me to manage the stables." "Catherine Mitchell," I replied, grateful for a friendly face. He smiled gently. "Mr. Mitchell spoke of you often. Said you had a natural way with horses, something he never mastered." "You knew my husband well?" I asked, surprised. Ellis hesitated. "As well as anyone could. He was here every month these past 3 years, overseeing everything himself. Never left a decision to chance." That sounded exactly like Joshua, meticulous, thoughtful. Ellis pointed to Midnight. "He spent months tracking down that one. Said the horse reminded him of a painting you loved." My heart clenched. Joshua remembered a black horse painting I'd admired decades ago. Did he ever talk about his health? I asked quietly. A shadow crossed Ellis's face. "Not directly. These last months, he worked like a man racing a clock only he could hear." The truth stung. "While I taught literature back in Minnesota, Joshua had been here, sick, secretive, building a sanctuary for me. They were here yesterday," I said, testing Ellis's reaction. His eyes hardened. "The brothers. I'm not surprised. They've been circling since oil showed up nearby. They mocked him for buying worthless land until it turned valuable." "What can you tell me about them?" Ellis leaned on a stall door. "Robert, the oldest, runs an investment firm. Always acted like he owned everyone. Alan, the lawyer, smooth talker, dangerous with paperwork. David, the youngest, follows Robert blindly. They tormented Joshua as a kid, city boys who hated farm work and looked down on him. When he came back to buy this place, they laughed at him until the oil appeared." I swallowed anger. No wonder Joshua had stayed silent about them. "They'll be back," I said. "Count on it," Ellis replied grimly. But Mr. Mitchell prepared. That comforted me. Still, preparation only matters if you know where to look. After breakfast, I returned to the laptop. Today's scheduled video waited. I pressed play. Joshua appeared in the library, sunlight catching the gray in his hair. "Good morning, Kat. I hope you slept well in our new home. Today, I want to show you something special." He carried the camera through the house, stopping at a locked door in a quiet hallway. "This room is for you. The key is in the antique silver bedside table. Go now, unlock it, and come back." I paused the video, hurried to the bedroom, and found the key exactly where he said. Heart pounding, I unlocked the door. I gasped. An art studio. Floor-to-ceiling windows bathed the room in perfect northern light. Easels, brushes, paints, everything a painter could dream of. I hadn't painted in 20 years. Life, teaching, raising Jenna, my art had been the first sacrifice. Joshua had remembered. Back on the laptop, Joshua smiled warmly. "You gave up your dream for us, Kat. I promised myself I'd give it back to you. This space is yours. Paint again when you're ready." Tears blurred my eyes. "One more thing," he said. "Check the cabinet beneath the window seat." I crossed the room, opened the cabinet, and gasped again. My old college paintings. Pieces I thought lost in our many moves. He had saved them, protected them for decades. On top lay my self-portrait from senior year, young and full of hope. Beside it, a note, "She's still in there, Kat." My hands shook. Joshua had truly seen me. Then the crunch of tires shattered the moment. Through the window, I saw two vehicles, the black SUV, and behind it, a sleek silver Mercedes I recognized. Jenna. My daughter stepped out, smiling, and shook hands with the very uncles who had tried to steal from me yesterday. My heart dropped. They entered without knocking, Jenna first, the brothers behind her like wolves. "Mom." Jenna hugged me quickly, eyes wide at the beautiful house. "Why doesn't Dad ever tell us about this?" Before I could answer, Robert stepped forward with a smooth smile. "Catherine, we got off on the wrong foot yesterday. Let's start over. This is family." Alan held a leather portfolio, legal documents, no doubt. David lingered quietly, observing. "Jenna," I said firmly, ignoring Robert, "I asked you not to meet with them until we talked." "They called this morning with a very reasonable proposal," she said defensively. "Besides, they're my family too. You didn't know they existed until yesterday," I reminded her gently. "Only because Dad hid them?" she shot back. "Isn't that strange? What else did he hide?" Pain cut deep, because Joshua had hidden much. His illness, the oil, this whole farm. But out of love, not greed. Robert stepped in smoothly. "Families fight. What matters now is moving forward together." "Exactly," Jenna said. Uncle Robert explained. "This farm was always meant to be shared. Dad bought it, but it's family land." "And the sudden oil doesn't matter?" I asked coolly. Alan opened his portfolio. "The mineral rights are complex. We're offering a fair settlement, 1/3 to you, 1/3 to Jenna, 1/3 to us. Everyone wins." Jenna looked hopeful. "It makes sense, Mom. We could sell, walk away with millions, keep peace." I met Robert's gaze. "Joshua left this to me, not to you." Out of confusion, Robert countered. He wasn't thinking clearly at the end. Anger burned. My husband was clear-headed until his last breath. Then why the secrecy? David finally spoke, soft but pointed. "Why hide all this?" "Because he wanted to protect us, I thought, but saying that would sound weak." "Mom," Jenna said gently, "I know this is hard. Dad left us secrets, but this deal makes financial sense. We'd be set for life." At that moment, Ellis appeared in the doorway. "Everything okay, Mrs. Mitchell?" The brothers bristled. "This is family business," Robert snapped. "He's my employee," I said firmly. "He belongs here." Ellen tried to twist it. "His employment is part of disputed assets." Ellis didn't flinch. "Mr. Mitchell hired me personally and asked me to protect this place and his wife." I'd had enough. "Gentlemen, please leave," I said, steel in my voice. "I'll review any proposal with my attorney, but I won't be pressured in my own home." Robert's smile dropped. "This property is worth tens of millions. We can make this hard." "Is that a threat?" "A reality check," he said coldly. "You're a teacher fighting wealthy businessmen. Joshua left you in an impossible spot." I thought of the blue folder, the videos, the war room. I suspect it might exist somewhere. "He knew exactly what he was doing," I said quietly. "Now leave." Jenna looked torn. "I think I'll go with them for now, Mom. Just to talk." My heart sank as she kissed my cheek and left with them. When their cars vanished down the drive, I stood shaking. My own daughter had been pulled into their web within days. Ellis stayed silent until the taillights disappeared. Then he spoke softly but firmly. "Mrs. Mitchell, there's something you should know. Something Joshua told me to keep secret unless it became necessary." I turned to him, exhausted but alert. "What is it?" "It's about the true extent of this property and what's really hidden here. Come with me." He led me toward an old weathered barn far from the polished house and pristine stables. Unlike everything else, it looked untouched, almost abandoned. "Your husband was careful," Ellis said, pulling out an ancient iron key. "After their first visit last year, he grew more cautious." "They came here before?" I asked, stunned. "Yes. When they heard about oil nearby, they showed up unannounced. Joshua kept his distance, unrecognizable with the beard. That night, he changed everything. He unlocked the barn door. Inside, hay, dust, old tools. Nothing special. Until Ellis moved bales aside and revealed a trap door in the floor. "Your husband called this insurance," Ellis said, lifting the heavy door. "I call it genius." A staircase disappeared into darkness. "After you, Mrs. Mitchell." I descended cautiously, heart hammering. At the bottom, Ellis flipped a switch. Lights hummed on. A concrete tunnel stretched ahead, ending in a wide room filled with filing cabinets, computers, and maps pinned across walls. "Welcome to Joshua's war room," Ellis said with quiet pride. Everywhere I looked, documents on the brothers, geological surveys, bank statements. I stared at a massive map showing the farm and surrounding lands. Red markings dotted the western hills. "I don't understand," I whispered. "Joshua bought this place for love," Ellis said. "But when oil was found nearby, he had geologists survey secretly. They discovered the largest deposit isn't what everyone thinks. It's under the western acres your brothers claimed were worthless." I stepped closer. The red markings formed a huge underground field, hidden because it was deeper and shaped differently than usual. "They don't know this," Ellis said. "Joshua verified it with 3 independent experts, all sworn to secrecy." Shock ran through me. The land they tried to exclude in their deal was the most valuable of all. "And that's not all," Ellis added, opening a cabinet. "Joshua documented their crimes: tax evasion, fraud, embezzlement. Enough to destroy them legally." I flipped through files, emails, signed statements, bank transfers. Joshua had built an ironclad defense. "Why collect all this?" I asked. "Because he knew they'd come for you," Ellis said simply. "He wanted you to have leverage." Tears burned my eyes. Even in death, Joshua was still protecting us. Ellis's voice softened. "He didn't expect them to get to Jenna so fast, though." Pain stabbed. "She's vulnerable. Grief makes her want connection to him." "Exactly," Ellis said. "They are using that." I looked around the war room, maps, files, secret plans. Joshua had been 3 steps ahead. Now I had to be 4. That night I hardly slept again. Instead, I watched a week's worth of Joshua's videos in one sitting. "Robert will act friendly," he warned. "Alan will threaten legally. David will watch and look harmless, but gather intel. Their easiest path to power is Jenna. Protect her. The western land looks useless. That's why it's perfect. They'll ignore it. But it's the true heart of Maple Creek." His words felt like a lifeline. By morning, I had a plan: take back Jenna before they locked her into their story. I called and arranged to meet her in the nearest small-town cafe, Neutral Ground. She arrived late, guarded. "I can't stay long," she said. "Uncle Robert's taking me to the family lawyer." "Uncle Robert," I repeated mildly. "Close after 3 days?" She flushed. "They've been kind. More welcoming than you." "You think I'm fighting them because I enjoy conflict?" I asked gently. "I'm protecting you." She crossed her arms. "From my own family?" "From their perspective," I said carefully. "Do you remember your art history professor saying perspective changes everything?" "You've heard only theirs. Dad kept them secret. He must not have trusted them," she said, but doubt flickered. I slid a tablet across the table. "Your father left you something." She frowned. "What is this?" "A video. For you. Watch." She pressed play. Joshua's face appeared vibrant, alive. "Hello, my brilliant girl," he said warmly. "If you're watching this, I'm gone. And you're probably angry at my secrets. You hate being left in the dark. You always did. I should have told you I was sick. I was selfish. I wanted our last years to feel normal." Tears welled in Jenna's eyes. "But there's something you must know. Your uncle stole my inheritance at 19. Used my name on fraudulent papers, then threatened me if I exposed them. I left Canada, changed my name from Jonathan to Joshua, and started over. They've want this land for greed, not love. Don't let them use you. The video ended. Jenna sat frozen, crying silently. "He was protecting us," she whispered. "Yes," I said softly. "Your uncles aren't family in the way Dad meant. They're opportunists." "They lied to me," she said, anger rising. "All of it?" "Not everything. The farm is valuable, but they hid the Western oil and their past crimes." Jenna wiped her tears. "Us?" she asked hopefully. "Us," I smiled. "Are you with me?" "I never really left. I just wanted to feel close to Dad. They used that." I squeezed her hand. "Grief makes us vulnerable, but now we're smarter. Together." "What's the plan?" she asked, determination lighting her face, so like Joshua's. And that was the moment I knew Joshua hadn't just left me land and files. He'd left me the strength to fight. Tomorrow we would meet my attorney, Joshua's handpicked ally. After that, the oil company. Knowledge is power, and we had it. The Mitchell brothers thought they faced a grieving, naive widow and her lost daughter. They were about to meet the woman Joshua had prepared to outthink them. The next morning, Jenna and I stepped into a lawyer's office with a plan that would flip the entire power game. The brothers thought they were winning, but they had no idea what was coming. The office of Martin Hale, the attorney Joshua had arranged for me years before, was modern and calm, full of tall windows and quiet confidence. He greeted us with a warm but assessing smile. "Mrs. Mitchell, Jenna," he said, shaking our hands. "Joshua told me I might meet you one day under difficult circumstances." That hits me. Even in death, Joshua had mapped this out. We sat across from him and explained everything: the brothers' visit, Jenna's near persuasion, the oil rights, the secret war room. I handed over the blue folder and several digital files had helped me copy. Martin studied everything carefully. His expression shifted from curiosity to sharp focus. "This is extraordinary," he said at last. "Your husband left airtight legal proof of ownership, mineral rights, and evidence of your brothers-in-law's past fraud. This isn't just a defense, it's a sword." "I want to protect what Joshua built," I said firmly. "But I also don't want a long, ugly public fight if I can avoid it." Martin nodded. "We can use leverage quietly. With the right presentation, we can corner them into a settlement that favors you completely without years of court drama. And if they refuse, the evidence destroys them." Jenna sat straighter, some of her earlier doubt melting away as she listened. "We want to make sure they can't use me against Mom again." Martin smiled slightly. "Your father anticipated that too. The documentation of their fraud against him when he was 19 makes their influence over you look like a continuation of predatory behavior. A judge would see that quickly." Relief eased some of my tension. Joshua had built a fortress around us. We just had to walk inside. After the legal strategy session, Martin helped us draft formal notices to the brothers. Any future negotiations must go through me and my legal counsel. Any interference with my daughter could be considered harassment. Then he helped me prepare something bigger, a controlled counteroffer, not to sell, but to invite competition. Joshua had said knowledge was power. We now held the secret, the Western land's hidden oil reserve. If the brothers thought they could lowball me by excluding it, I'd bring in someone who valued it. Martin arranged a discreet meeting with Thomas Reeves, CEO of Western Plains Energy, the rival company to Northern Extraction, the firm Robert had tried to use. Joshua had apparently left introductions ready. Reeves knew my husband's name and was intrigued. "They think you're naive," Martin told me. "Let's make them underestimate you one more time, and then flip the board." 2 days later, Jenna and I drove into the city to meet Reeves in a private conference room at his company headquarters. He was a tall, silver-haired man with sharp blue eyes, the kind of executive who measured every word. But when he saw the geological data Joshua had hidden, his cool professionalism cracked. "This is significant," he said, tracing the map's red markings. "We've suspected deeper reserves under that terrain but couldn't prove it. Your husband's surveys confirm it." "I won't sell outright," I told him plainly. "If we work together, it will be under strict environmental safeguards and long-term profit sharing. Joshua cared about doing us right." Reeve studied me for a long moment, then smiled faintly. "He described you perfectly, principled and strategic. Western Plains can work with that. That small moment, hearing that Joshua had told this man about me, filled me with unexpected warmth. Even while dying, he'd been planning for me to have allies. Reeves agreed to attend a meeting at Maple Creek Farm if the brothers tried another takeover. We set a tentative date, prepared documents, and gave him a quiet exit if he decided the risk wasn't worth it. But he didn't flinch. "This will be entertaining," he said with a glint in his eye. That night, Jenna and I sat at the big farmhouse table surrounded by legal folders, coffee mugs, and quiet determination. "Dad really thought of everything," Jenna said, voice soft with both admiration and grief. "Yes," I said, smiling sadly. "But he also knew we'd have to step into the fight ourselves." She reached over and squeezed my hand. "I'm ready, Mom." It was the first time she'd called me that with warmth since arriving in Canada. The manipulation of the brothers had lost its grip. For the next 3 days we prepared. Ellis worked behind the scenes like a loyal general. He had staff tidy the house, arrange seating in the formal dining room, and test the hidden projection screen Joshua had installed. "You're going to need a show of power," Ellis said. Joshua believed in quiet strategy, but he also knew optics matter. He was right. The brothers thrived on appearances. So I planned to present myself not as a grieving teacher, but as a calm, prepared landowner and strategist. Jenna helped pick professional outfits. "They need to see the woman Dad believed in," she said. By the time the black SUV appeared on the driveway, exactly 3 days after our cafe meeting, we were ready. Robert, Alan, and David stepped out in dark coats, confident and smiling faintly. Behind them, a silver Mercedes carried an unfamiliar older man, clearly a corporate ally. Ellis met them at the door with the grace of an old estate caretaker. "Mrs. Mitchell and Miss Jenna are expecting you," he said. We greeted them in the great room. I wore a tailored navy suit, hair neatly styled. Jenna stood beside me in a dark blue dress, wearing her father's watch. "Catherine," Robert said, smile tight. "We appreciate you agreeing to this meeting. May I introduce Harrison Wells, CEO of Northern Extraction." So that was their oil ally, meant to intimidate me with expertise in market jargon. Predictable. "How thoughtful," I said pleasantly. "Shall we move to the dining room?" Their surprise was small but visible when they saw the formal table set with documents, water carafes, coffee service, and a hidden screen at the end of the room. Once everyone was seated, Robert opened with an oily charm. "We're glad you've had time to think about our offer. With Mr. Wells' insight, we can create the most advantageous division of the land." I smiled politely. "Yes, the vision is exactly what I want to discuss." I picked up a remote control. The hidden screen slid down behind me. Their eyebrows rose. "Please," I said smoothly, "direct your attention to the presentation." A detailed topographic map of Maple Creek Farm appeared. "This," I explained, "is the complete survey, all 2,200 acres. Not just the eastern 800 acres in your proposal." Ellen shifted. "The western section is rocky and undevelopable. We excluded it for simplicity." "How considerate," I replied mildly. "Except for one small detail." Click. The map filled with red overlays, oil reserves from Joshua's secret geological surveys. Harrison Wells sat forward, mask cracking. "Where did this data come from?" "Verified by 3 independent teams," I said smoothly. Robert's jaw tightened. "These surveys are speculative." Before he could continue, the connecting door opened, and Thomas Reeves walked in, tall, confident, flanked by 2 Western Plains executives and my attorney, Martin. Robert shot to his feet. "What is this?" "This," I said, smiling calmly, "is a meeting about the true value of Maple Creek Farm. Mr. Reeves represents Western Plains Energy, a company prepared to negotiate directly with me, the legal owner." Harrison Wells turned to the brothers, face dark. "You told me you had exclusive rights here." "They don't," Martin interjected smoothly. "Mrs. Mitchell holds uncontested title, including mineral rights. Your information was false." Robert slammed a palm on the table. "This property has been in our family for generations. Joshua had a moral obligation." "Moral obligation?" Jenna's voice cut sharp and clear. Like the moral obligation you had when you stole Dad's inheritance? When you forged his signature on fraudulent loans and threatened to ruin him if he told the truth? Silence fell. The brothers paled. Harrison Wells looked alarmed. What exactly is she talking about? Martin calmly distributed sealed envelopes. Documentation from Mr. Joshua Mitchell, financial fraud, tax evasion, threats. Public record ready if necessary. Alan ripped one open, color draining from his face. These are private family matters, irrelevant. On the contrary, I said, finally taking my seat at the head of the table. They establish a pattern of deceit and show why your standing in these negotiations is non-existent. The room went still. Robert's polished mask shattered. What do you want? He asked hoarsely. I want you to leave Maple Creek Farm forever, I said evenly. Stop manipulating my daughter. Stop contesting my ownership. In return, these documents stay private. Harrison Wells stood abruptly. My company was misled. Mrs. Mitchell will contact you directly regarding any potential partnership. Good day. He shot the brothers a disgusted look and left. Robert's face twisted with rage and panic. You don't know what you're doing. Extraction in the western section is expensive. Logistics alone, actually, Reeves interrupted smoothly. Western Plains has new technology for this terrain. We're prepared to make Mrs. Mitchell an offer acknowledging both the challenges and the extraordinary yield potential. I watched the brothers deflate as the balance of power flipped. For 2 hours, we turned their planned ambush into a negotiation of their surrender. Martin unveiled a pre-drafted settlement agreement. They would drop all claims, cease harassment, and acknowledge my sole ownership in exchange for privacy about their crimes. Defeated, they signed. When the black SUV finally disappeared down the driveway, Jenna let out a long, shaky breath. Mom, we did it. Yes, I whispered, feeling Joshua's unseen hand in every step. We did. The weeks after that victory were a blur of legal filings and practical decisions. Western Plains Energy moved forward with cautious exploration, fully agreeing to my unusual terms: slow, environmentally safe extraction, restoration funds, and a profit-sharing trust for future generations. Industry people were surprised, but Reeves seemed almost admiring. Your husband said you insist on doing this right, he told me one afternoon. He called you a tactical genius hiding in plain sight. I smiled through tears. Joshua had known me better than I knew myself. Jenna stayed at Maple Creek during those hectic weeks, helping with paperwork, riding horses with Alice's patient guidance, and slowly healing. Our daily ritual of watching Joshua's scheduled videos became sacred. Each morning we'd sit with coffee, let his warm face fill the screen, and listen. Sometimes we cried. Sometimes we laughed. Did you have any idea, Jenna asked one night on the porch, about Dad being sick or planning all this? I thought back. There were little clues: his sudden urge to take photos, update wills, stop saying someday and start doing things. I just thought it was midlife reflection. She smiled sadly. He was living on borrowed time, building this for us. Yes, I said softly. He gave us more than land. He gave us freedom. 1 month after the brothers' defeat, a new chapter began. I stood in the art studio, sunlight spilling through the windows, a blank canvas on the easel. For decades, I'd buried my painter soul. Now, brushes trembled in my hands with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Jenna appeared in the doorway with the laptop. Today's video is different, she said gently. He titled it When Catherine Starts Painting Again. He knew you would. I took the laptop, heart pounding, and pressed play. Joshua appeared, recorded long ago, sitting in this empty room before it was finished. Hello, my love, he said, eyes warm. If you're watching, you've picked up your brushes again. Good. I always wanted this for you. Legacy isn't just money or land. It's possibility, giving the people we love the tools to become who they're meant to be. Tears streamed silently as he spoke. The farm, the horses, the studio, they're not the inheritance. You are. Your freedom is. What you do now is yours alone. I trust you to build something beautiful. He smiled. Behind you is his storage closet. Inside is a large blank canvas I had built. I hope when you're ready, you'll create something that captures this place, not just what it looks like, but what it means. I glanced at the huge wrapped canvas against the wall. Joshua had imagined this moment down to the detail. Until tomorrow, my love, he ended softly. I unwrapped the canvas. It was massive, meant to hang in the great room. For weeks I sketched ideas, searching for an image that captured the transformation of Maple Creek and of me. Nothing felt right until one crisp morning, I watched Jenna ride midnight across the meadow, her laughter carrying on the cold air. Suddenly, I knew. The painting took shape over long autumn days. The farm past and present layered together, the broken childhood house Joshua had fled, the vibrant estate he built, the timeless land beneath. Two writers moved through these layers, a man and a woman, their faces softened, symbols of love and resilience. Behind them, faint but purposeful, a young woman riding forward alone, the future. When I finally placed the last brushstroke, Ellis helped hang it in the great room. Jenna stood beside me, eyes shining. "It's him," she whispered. "And you? And me?" "Legacy," I said simply. "Not just what's left, but what moves forward." That evening we sat on the porch watching the western hills glow with sunset. Oil would soon flow carefully from beneath them, funding futures without destroying the land. Horses grazed peacefully in pastures Joshua had reclaimed. My daughter leaned against my shoulder, stronger now. For the first time since Joshua's death, I felt not just grief, but purpose. We had survived the first battle. Life, I knew, still held surprises, especially with the Mitchell brothers somewhere out there nursing wounded pride. Winter was coming to Maple Creek Farm, and with it, silence. Too much silence. The brothers had retreated, but deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Then one unexpected phone call shattered our calm and dragged me into a new, dangerous chapter. Snow had begun to blanket the rolling fields in soft white. The horse's breath puffed like smoke in the cold morning air. Inside the farmhouse, Jenna and I had created a rhythm. Breakfast together, a few hours of legal work or painting, long walks with Ellis to check fences and barns. Life had begun to feel almost safe. But grief has a strange way of quieting only to roar back when you least expect it. I was learning to breathe without Joshua, but I still caught myself reaching for my phone to text him little things. "First snow today," or "Jenna's riding midnight finally." His absence felt like a missing piece of myself. That morning, the phone rang as I stood by the kitchen window watching the snow fall. The number was unfamiliar but local. Something in me hesitated before answering. "Mrs. Mitchell?" a man's voice asked, clipped and professional. "Yes." "This is Constable Wilson from the RCMP. We've met before." My pulse jumped, the young officer from the day the brothers first arrived. "What can I do for you?" "There's been an incident," he said carefully. "It concerns Robert Mitchell." I went cold. "What happened?" "He's filed a criminal complaint. Says you've been threatening him with false allegations and extortion regarding family property. He's pushing for an investigation." I closed my eyes, gripping the counter. "Of course. We have your lawyer's contact, and this is still preliminary," Wilson continued. "But I wanted to give you a courtesy heads up before paperwork lands on your doorstep." "Thank you," I said quietly. When I hung up, Jenna was at the doorway, worried. "What's wrong?" "Your uncles are trying a new tactic," I said. "They filed a complaint accusing me of extortion." "That's insane." "It's strategic," I replied grimly. "They lost legally, so now they want to smear my name and drain our energy with criminal accusations." Jenna's eyes blazed. "We're not letting them win." "No," I said. "But this is dangerous. False criminal charges can hurt even when they don't stick." We called Martin immediately. He wasn't surprised. "I expected some form of retaliation," he said, voice steady. "We'll respond swiftly. They have no case, your evidence is clean. But this is harassment meant to intimidate." "It's working a little," I admitted. "That's normal," Martin said kindly. "But remember, truth is on your side. We'll crush this before it breathes." Despite his reassurance, the complaint shook me. It wasn't just legal. It felt personal, like a ghost of Joshua's painful past reaching for us again. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went down to the war room, the underground sanctuary Joshua had built, and sat among his files, trying to feel his presence. On a dusty shelf, I noticed a locked steel box I hadn't opened before. The key was in the blue folder. Inside, neatly labeled, "Personal, do not open unless you must." Hands trembling, I opened it. Inside were photographs, old faded pictures of a young Joshua, then Jonathan, as a boy on the farm. Some showed him bruised, thin, looking wary. Others showed the brothers as older teens sneering. Notes in Joshua's handwriting described years of abuse and theft. I swallowed hard, tears burning. He had never spoken of this. At the bottom was a cassette tape in a small digital recorder labeled Dad Confession 2002. Curiosity and dread warred inside me. I played the recording. An older man's voice, harsh but breaking, filled the room. "Johnny, I failed you. I let Robert and Alan convince me to sign over your trust fund when you were 19. I believed their lies. I let them take what was yours. I'm sorry, son. I was weak. Please forgive me." Joshua had kept this proof all these years. Anger flooded me. His father had betrayed him, his brothers had stolen from him, and still he'd found a way to build a life for us without revenge. Until now, when he had quietly armed me to finish the fight if needed. I understood something in that moment. This wasn't just about money or land. This was about breaking a cycle of exploitation that had haunted Joshua his whole life. 2 days later, Martin called. "They're trying to use local media," he warned. "Robert's feeding a narrative that you manipulated a dying man and now smear his family with false fraud claims. We need to go proactive." Meaning we control the story before they do. Publicity had never been my arena. But Joshua had left a digital treasure trove. Photos, videos, scans of legal proof. And I was a teacher, a storyteller by nature. "I'll tell the truth," I said quietly. "But on my terms." Martin smiled over the phone. "That's exactly what your husband would do." With his guidance, Jenna and I recorded a calm, dignified video statement filmed in the great room before the massive painting I'd finished. I spoke simply, looking into the camera. "My name is Catherine Mitchell. My husband Joshua, born Jonathan Mitchell, built this farm for our family before his death. For decades, he lived under the shadow of betrayal by his brothers, who stole his inheritance as a young man and drove him from his home. He chose to forgive quietly and build a life. But before his death, he left me proof of everything: ownership, mineral rights, and their past crimes, to protect me and our daughter." Jenna stepped forward. "I was almost deceived after his death. Grief made me vulnerable, and my uncles used it. But I've learned the truth. We're simply protecting what's ours. We ask to be left in peace." We didn't mention oil reserves. We didn't gloat. We just told the human story with quiet strength. Martin released the video strategically, first to local journalists he trusted, then to a respected national outlet interested in stories of women defending family legacies. The response shocked me. The narrative shifted overnight, from greedy widow fights family to brave wife protects late husband's dream against corrupt brave. Comments poured in, strangers offering support, lawyers dissecting the airtight evidence, even landowners sharing similar battles. Robert's smear campaign backfired spectacularly, but victory came with backlash. One icy evening, I returned from the stables to find the front porch lights smashed and tire tracks in the snow leading away. Jenna stood pale behind me. "Mom, it's intimidation," I said, keeping my voice calm though my hands trembled. "They're angry and cornered. We called Constable Wilson. He arrived within an hour, took photos, and promised extra patrols. This is harassment," he said firmly. "You are protected." Still, fear slid cold through me. For the first time, I wondered if this land, beautiful but isolated, could also be dangerous. That night, Ellis insisted on sleeping in the downstairs guest room, shotgun by the bed. "I won't let harm come," he said simply. Days passed without another incident, but tension lingered. Then came the phone call that changed everything. It was a cold January afternoon. I was painting when the landline rang, an old rotary phone Joshua had restored for charm. "Mrs. Mitchell," an unfamiliar woman's voice said, urgent but kind. "My name is Laura Jensen. I used to work for Robert Mitchell, his personal assistant." I stiffened. "Yes? I know this is strange, but I've seen what's happening." I just quit because I couldn't be part of it anymore. "Robert is planning something dangerous." My breath caught. "What kind of dangerous?" "They're trying to invalidate Joshua's death certificate," she said quickly. "Claim he was incompetent when he signed. They've hired a private investigator to dig up anything, medical records, old doctors, to argue he was delusional from medication. They're hoping to overturn everything in probate court and freeze your assets." My stomach dropped. "Can they do that?" "It's a long shot," Laura said, "but with enough confusion, they could tie you up for years, bankrupt you with legal costs. And there's more." I gripped the phone. "Tell me." "They've contacted someone unsavory. A man named Carter Doyle. He's done dirty work for them before. Threats, sabotage, even arson. They want to scare you into settling or fleeing." I slid down my spine. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I can't watch them destroy another person. Joshua was kind to me once, years ago. I owe him. Be careful, Mrs. Mitchell." The line went dead. I stood frozen, phone still in my hand, while Jenna watched from the doorway, face pale. "Mom?" I slowly repeated everything Laura had said. Fear and anger warred in my chest. They're escalating. They want to ruin us, maybe even hurt us. Ellis, who'd been in the hallway, came in grim. "Carter Doyle is bad news. Worked as muscle for oil companies in the 90s. If Robert's paying him, he's desperate." Martin, when we called, was furious. "We'll file restraining orders, alert authorities, and secure private security if needed." They're playing with fire now. But even as he spoke, I felt something stronger than fear rise in me, resolve. Joshua had built me a fortress. I would not run from men who thrived on intimidation. "Let them come," I said quietly after hanging up. "We'll be ready." Jenna looked at me with wide eyes and a growing spark of courage. That night, deep in the war room, I made my own preparations. Joshua had left not just files but contacts, ethical journalists, old friends in law enforcement, business allies like Reeves. I spent hours sending careful emails, lining up support should things turn ugly. Ellis reinforced doors, checked cameras Joshua had installed years ago, and added new ones. Martin expedited protective orders. Constable Wilson increased patrols. And in the quiet hours past midnight, Jenna sat beside me going through old family albums, trying to hold on to the father we both loved. "We're going to be okay," she said softly, though her voice trembled. "Yes," I whispered, pulling her close. "Because your father taught us how to fight with truth." Days passed. Nothing happened. No strangers on the road. No broken lights. Just deep winter silence and the eerie feeling of being watched. Then one stormy night, the dogs Ellis kept near the stables started barking wildly. We rushed to the windows. Headlights cut through the swirling snow, a single dark truck crawling up the driveway. Ellis grabbed his shotgun. "Stay inside," he ordered, slipping out the side door. The truck stopped short of the house. A figure stepped out, tall, heavy coat, face hidden by a hood. Even through the dark, I felt the threat rolling off him. I pulled Jenna behind me, heart pounding. Ellis shouted something I couldn't hear over the wind. The man didn't move closer, just stood, staring toward the house for a long, chilling moment. Then he turned, got back in the truck, and drove away slowly, taillights disappearing into the storm. Ellis came back, face pale but calm. "That was a warning," he said quietly. Couldn't see his face, but I bet my life that was Doyle. Fear tried to claw at me, but anger beat it back. "They want us scared," I said. "They want us to feel alone." "We're not alone," Jenna whispered fiercely, taking my hand. She was right. We had allies, law, truth, and each other. But I knew this was only the beginning. The next morning, Martin called after hearing about the truck. "This changes everything," he said. I'm filing emergency protective motions today, and I'll alert a contact in the RCMP Serious Crimes Unit. If they're using intimidation, we can escalate. Will it stop him? I asked. It will make him think twice, Martin said. And if he crosses the line, we'll have a legal hammer ready. I hung up and turned to Jenna and Ellis. We don't hide. We prepare. If they want a war, they'll face the truth Joshua built. Ellis nodded, eyes fierce. He'd be proud of you. That night, alone in my art studio, I stared at the painting of our family legacy and felt Joshua's presence like a steady hand on my shoulder. I'm not afraid, I whispered aloud, surprising myself with how true it felt. Outside, the wind howled across the snowy fields of Maple Creek Farm. Somewhere beyond the hills, men plotted to take what wasn't theirs. But this time, they weren't facing the naive teacher they imagined. They were facing the woman Joshua had trained, armed with truth, love, and unbreakable resolve. The night the stranger came back was the night everything exploded. Fire, betrayal, and a final confrontation that would decide the fate of Maple Creek Farm and our family's future forever. The storm raged across the Alberta plains, snow whipping against the windows in furious sheets. Midnight paced in his stall, restless from the smell of fear that seemed to hang in the air. I stood in the great room, staring at the driveway cameras on Joshua's security monitor. Every motion sensor blinked green, calm, for now. Jenna sat curled on the couch, clutching a mug of tea she hadn't touched. Ellis moved through the house like a silent guardian, checking doors, windows, and the shotgun Joshua had left for emergencies. They'll try again, Ellis said quietly, returning from the mudroom. Men like Doyle don't do one silent visit. They test, then they strike. Jenna's face tightened. We should call the police again. We already have, I said, forcing calm into my voice. Constable Wilson promised patrols, but in this weather, I glanced out at the blinding snow. We're mostly on our own tonight. Ellis nodded grimly. Then we stay sharp. I wished, not for the first time, that Joshua was here, not just his careful plans, but his physical presence. Then I remembered his words in one of the videos. You are stronger than you know, Kat. You'll face storms I can't predict. Trust yourself. I straightened. We're ready. Hours crawled by. The storm screamed outside, wind battering the farmhouse like angry fists. Sometime after midnight, the dogs erupted again, frantic, furious barking that echoed through the barns. Ellis bolted upright. Driveway. I ran to the monitor. Through swirling snow, two vehicles crawled toward the house, a black truck and a dark SUV, headlights cutting through the storm. They're here, Jenna whispered. My pulse thundered. Ellis, call Wilson. Jenna, stay behind me. Ellis grabbed the phone and the shotgun. I moved toward the door but stopped short, a flash of light on the side camera. Someone was already off the driveway, approaching on foot. A loud bang rattled the porch, someone pounding the door. Catherine, a voice bellowed through the storm. Robert. I stared in disbelief. Robert Mitchell, sick, pale, bundled in a heavy coat, stood on my porch, but he wasn't alone. Behind him loomed Carter Doyle, a hulking man with a hood and hard eyes that cut straight through the glass. Alan and David climbed out of the SUV, faces grim. This wasn't a negotiation. This was intimidation turned physical. Stay calm, Ellis whispered, shotgun ready but lowered. I took a deep breath and stepped to the door but didn't open it. What do you want, Robert? His voice cracked, half pleading, half commanding. We need to talk, now. Open the door. No, I said firmly. State your business from there. His expression twisted. You've backed us into a corner, Catherine. We're out of time. I'm dying, and you've left us nothing. That's not my doing, I replied, heart hammering. Your choices brought you here. Doyle stepped forward, menace radiating. Lady, you're gonna open this door, or... Ellis pumped the shotgun loudly. Or what? Doyle froze, eyes narrowing, clearly reassessing. Robert shot him a warning glance, then looked back at me. Please, this isn't a threat. We just need help. I hesitated. Behind them, Alan looked pale, desperate. David wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mom," Jenna whispered from behind me, voice shaking. "Don't." Robert must have heard. "Jenna, we're family. Let us in. Please." Something in his tone gave me pause. For the first time, he didn't sound powerful or conniving. He sounded broken. I opened the inner door, but left the heavy storm door locked between us. "Speak." Robert took a shuddering breath. "I read the letter about the other siblings. We tried to reach them." "And?" I asked. "They refused. Both of them. One doesn't want anything to do with her father's mess. The other has serious health issues. Can't donate." His voice cracked. "I have no one left." For a flicker of a moment, the man before me wasn't a predator, just a sick, desperate human. "That's unfortunate," I said carefully, keeping my tone neutral. "But it doesn't excuse what you've done." "I know," he whispered. Snow clung to his coat. "I know. But I'm dying. And he glanced at Doyle, thinks fear will get me what I need. I didn't ask him to threaten you." Doyle sneered. "She's bluffing. She won't call cops in a blizzard." "Try me," Ellis growled. For a heartbeat, silence. Only the wind screamed. Then Jenna stepped up beside me, voice trembling but strong. "You came here to scare my mother. To steal again. And now you want her help?" "No." Robert looked at her, something raw in his expression. "Jenna, I know I've been awful, but I'm out of time." "Then face the consequences of your life," she said coldly. Doyle shifted, frustrated. "Enough talking. This is going nowhere." His hand moved toward his coat, and the world slowed. Ellis raised the shotgun. "Don't." Through the storm came flashing lights, blue and red cutting across the snow. RCMP patrol. Constable Wilson's SUV skidded to a stop behind the trucks. Doyle cursed and stepped back. Wilson jumped out, weapon drawn. "Everyone freeze!" Relief crashed through me so hard I swayed. "Hands where I can see them," Wilson barked. Backup lights approached from behind. Another patrol. Doyle froze, then slowly raised his hands. Ellen and David immediately complied, terrified. Robert sagged against the railing, defeated. Wilson's eyes found me through the glass. "Mrs. Mitchell, are you safe?" "Yes," I called, voice shaking. "But arrest that man. He came to threaten us." Doyle snarled but didn't resist as officers cuffed him. Robert whispered something I couldn't hear before sinking onto the porch bench, exhausted. Within minutes, the storm door was opened under Wilson's protection. "You're safe now," he said softly. "We got the call about suspicious vehicles and came as quick as we could." I shot a grateful glance at Ellis. He must have phoned them when the trucks first appeared. Robert looked up at me, eyes hollow. "I'm sorry." I didn't answer. Some things didn't deserve a reply. Hours later, after statements were taken and Doyle was led away on charges of intimidation and trespassing, the house finally fell quiet. Jenna and I sat wrapped in blankets by the fire, silent and shaken. Ellis poured us tea with hands that still trembled slightly. "You did good," he said softly. "Both of you." Jenna leaned against me. "It's over?" "For tonight," I said. "But not forever. People like them, they don't give up easily." Still, I felt something shift. The RCMP had witnessed their intimidation firsthand. Our legal case was stronger than ever. And Robert, ill, desperate, defeated, no longer looked like a threat, only a sad man facing his own end. The next morning, a different call came. It was Robert's lawyer. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said carefully, "my client wishes to formally apologize and drop all complaints against you. He also intends to sign a document reaffirming the previous settlement with no further legal action." I was stunned. "Why?" "Robert nearly died last night in that storm," the lawyer said quietly. "He was taken to the hospital after the RCMP encounter, severe heart complications. He wants peace. He asked me to tell you he's sorry." I hung up and stared out at the white fields. A strange mix of relief and sadness washed through me. Robert, for all his cruelty, was still Joshua's brother, a broken man shaped by a toxic father. And now he was finally surrendering. When I told Jenna, she was silent for a long time. Part of me wants to hate him forever, she admitted. But part of me just feels sorry. I know, I said softly. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't revenge. It's refusing to become what hurt you. Spring arrived at Maple Creek Farm slowly, the snow melting into rich black soil. Green buds appeared on the maple trees. Life crept back. We signed final documents with Western Plains Energy under the sustainable plan I'd negotiated. Reeves visited often, respectful and collaborative. Oil rigs began to appear on the far western hills, quiet, efficient, monitored by environmental engineers as per our contract. Jenna returned to Minneapolis but visited every few weeks. Our bond, tested by grief and manipulation, was stronger now than it had ever been. Each morning, I still watched one of Joshua's videos. They were nearing their end now, the year of messages almost complete. Soon there would be no more new words from him, just the life he built for me to continue. One late afternoon, as golden light spilled across the fields, Jenna and I sat on the porch with Ellis. The horses grazed peacefully beyond the fence. "You've built something incredible here, Mom," Jenna said quietly. "Dad would be proud." Tears pricked my eyes. "We built it together, your father, me, and now you." Ellis nodded. "Joshua was a man who turned pain into purpose. You've done the same." I smiled at that. The final video came on a warm May morning. I watched alone in the art studio, surrounded by the paintings I'd created since reclaiming my old passion. Joshua appeared on screen, smiling gently. "If you're watching this, Kat, it means you've made it through the first year. I hope you fought when you needed to fight, loved when you could, and found strength you didn't know you had. I know you. You've always been stronger than you think." He leaned closer. "I built the farm, but you built the life. Keep going. Keep creating. Keep living boldly. And when you ride across those fields, know I'm with you, not as a ghost, but as the love that built this place and the belief that you could carry it forward." Tears slid down my cheeks. I touched the screen and whispered, "I did it, Josh. We're safe." That evening, Jenna arrived unexpectedly carrying flowers. "Thought we could celebrate Dad's last video together?" she said with a watery smile. We cooked dinner, laughed, and shared memories. Afterward, we saddled Midnight in one of the gentler mares and rode out across the western hills, just as Joshua had once dreamed for us. The land rolled out before us, safe ours, and alive with possibility. Halfway up the ridge, Jenna stopped and looked at me. "Mom, thank you for fighting, for protecting Dad's dream, for protecting me." I swallowed past the lump in my throat. We did it together. We reached the top as the sun dipped low, bathing Maple Creek Farm in golden light. The ricks in the distance glinted but didn't mar the wild beauty. The horses below grazed peacefully. The farmhouse glowed warm against the darkening fields. This was no longer forbidden ground. It was home. Months passed. The Mitchell brothers kept their distance. Robert, I heard through lawyers, entered treatment but remained gravely ill. Alan and David faded from headlines in business circles, their power diminished by the evidence Joshua had left. Doyle faced charges that likely would end his career as an enforcer. I painted. I wrote. I lived. The art studio filled with color and life, landscapes of the farm, portraits of the horses, abstract pieces inspired by love and resilience. One painting, a sweeping view of the Western Ridge with 3 writers, Joshua, Jenna, and me, became my signature piece. Galleries began to call. I was finally, fully, an artist again. Jenna often visited, helping manage the oil trust and long-term land plans. We spoke often of Joshua, not with the raw grief of that first year, but with warmth and gratitude. One summer evening, as fireflies sparked over the fields, Jenna turned to me. "Do you ever regret not selling everything? Taking the easy millions?" I looked at the land, the art studio, the horses, the rolling hills Joshua had fought to reclaim. "Not for a second," I said softly. "This isn't just softly. This isn't just land. It's freedom. It's love. She smiled. I think Dad knew you'd say that. I think he did too. We sat in quiet peace, the legacy Joshua built alive around us. Life at Maple Creek Farm isn't simple, but it's ours. It's safe now, strong now. We face betrayal, greed, intimidation, and won not by violence, but by truth, strategy, and love. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. Family is who you choose to fight for. Legacy is what you build from pain, and no one can steal the life you claim with courage. Thank you for watching my journey. If you felt inspired, please like this video so more people can hear it. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful, real-life stories of resilience and love after loss. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? Because somewhere out there, someone might need to hear that they're stronger than they think.